So, what happens when we die? Do we cross the veil? Do we go through the tunnel? Do we look for the light? Oh, these are all things we've heard so many times, haven't we, from people, perhaps from mediums, perhaps from people who know much more about the process of dying than we do. There are many people who have had past, let's say, out-of-body experiences, or they've had a near-death experience where they die and they have this amazing experience, and then they come back and they're able to tell us all about it. And so many of the stories have a similar theme. Yes, I think we do go through a type of a tunnel. But the word tunnel, what is it? I mean, because it conjures up this sort of very dark, sort of narrow space that we have to travel through in order to get from one side of this side of our existence to the other side of our existence, because we don't die. I hate to use the word dying because I don't believe in death or dying, but when we leave this earthly plane, let's put it that way, what happens? What happens next? Now, it's been my privilege to talk to so many people who are, in fact, dead, we use that term, on the other side, who have gone through the experience of death, who know what it's like to die, and who know what it's like in that moment, in that experience. They have experienced that death process, if you want to put it that way. And the majority, not all, but the majority of people that I've talked to will actually describe a tunnel that they see, or some kind of a corridor. I like the idea of calling it a corridor because a tunnel makes it sound as if we're actually going to have to dig our way through things. But what does happen? Many years ago, I had a patient who actually came to one of our healing centres. His name is Colin. And he came to the healing centre, and the first thing he said to me was, look, I've not come for a cure. I've got cancer. I know I'm dying. What I've really come for is I've come to talk to your spirit guide, Grey Eagle. So I said, okay. So during the conversation with Grey Eagle, Colin asked this, what I thought was quite a remarkable question. He wanted to know from Grey Eagle. He said, Grey Eagle, what does the universe look like? Can you describe the universe to us? And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, this is not, this is a tough question. But Grey Eagle put his hand on my shoulder and he laughs at me. He said, no. He said, that's an easy one to answer. Just tell him it's like holes in a cheese. And Colin thought for a moment, and then he said, that's exactly what I thought. Let me describe what Grey Eagle meant to you. So taking a cheese, an Emmenthal, or a cheese where they put these really hot, fine copper wires through the cheese, which causes holes in a cheese. But the hot wires usually go from one side to the other, and they crisscross the wires, so that if you get a ball of Emmenthal cheese and you cut it in half, you'll see it's almost sometimes as if we've cut the tunnel in half. We've cut the grooves where the hot wire went through. We've cut it in half. But if you can imagine it whole, and those tunnels going this way, that way, so on and so forth, they lead all the way through this universe of ours. And so when we are at that moment where our etheric body, our spirit body, leaves our physical body, we call that process death. When it actually leaves, and a lot of people talk about the cord. Is there really a cord attaching the etheric body to the physical body? There is. You could say it's almost an invisible cord, but it's like a silver thread that keeps the etheric body tied to the physical body until the physical body can no longer hold on, at which point the thread is broken. That silver thread, that cord as we call it, is broken, and the etheric body is able then to leave the body. But then what happens? Here we are, we're in our etheric body, the physical body is gone, it's no longer of any use to us, not breathing, it's gone. So then what are we doing? Are we just floating? Are we hanging about? What are we doing? This is the time when often people in the spirit world will tell me, perhaps someone who they loved, a beloved husband or a mother coming to collect her child, or that's when they tell me, those in the spirit world will tell me that, first of all, their angels come for them. And also they will often feel the presence, or they'll feel their loved one hold their hand as they are guided through the process of that journey which takes us from this earth plane into the spirit world. And I often hear people describe that they are being lifted. They feel as if they're being lifted up. They often feel that their angels have come for them and they are being lifted and carried. The process of being lifted and carried is also interesting, because so many people tell me how, yes, it's initially dark. It's almost as if they've got their eyes closed. The whole process is done in darkness, except for the light of their angels around them. So even though that darkness might be a little bit scary for some people, the actual presence of angels and the presence of their loved ones in the spirit world sort of make them feel so safe and make them feel so comfortable. So they are lifted out and carried very gently, they tell me, very gently. And as they're carried, they start to feel a warmth, and they start to feel, if you like, the temperature will change for them. And then they are found, and this is a majority of people who will tell me this, they find themselves in this light, bright light, so bright that they cannot, it's blinding, they cannot see through it. And for a moment they are blinded by this incredible and unbelievable light. But again, that they tell me, so many people in the spirit world have told me, it's not a scary process. In fact, it's just the opposite, because they feel the presence of God, they feel the presence of their angels, they feel the presence of warmth and love. And as they come through the light and going through the process of light, they're not even aware that there is a tunnel. The tunnel is, even though it is there perhaps, it is non-existent to them in their experience, because they're being carried, they're being loved, they feel warmth and light, and it's such a comforting experience. A lot of people tell me when they come through from the spirit world how terrified they were of dying until it actually happened to them, and they couldn't believe the incredible beauty and the feeling of joy that came over them. So now we're in the light. What happens next? We're in the light, our angels are surrounding us, and as our eyes get used to the light, as our eyes get used to seeing through the light, so many people have told me that then they see, it's almost like a crowd. They see a crowd of people who are waiting beyond the light, who are waiting to welcome them, who are joyfully waiting to welcome them. And these people who they see, this crowd of people, the crowd comprises of their family, their loved ones. The crowd comprises of all of those who have gone before, who have come to greet us and have come to welcome us, if you like, to heaven. Call it what you like. Some people call it nirvana, whatever. But here they are, these people who we love and who we care about, are there and they're waiting. Now, there's a little question here, because, you know, I've had many people say to me, especially when they're on that point of dying, before they're dying, they say to me, you know, I just don't want to meet so-and-so, or I think I've talked about this before. I had a patient, Angie, whose father was very abusive to her, and she was terrified that when she died, that he would be there waiting for her. What we have to remember through this process is that as we're at this point of going on to our next journey, our etheric body leaves the physical body. What we have to remember is that we are protected. Our angels are around us. They're not going to take us into any place that is harmful or damaging to us. And they're not going to bring us to a crowd of people who have, let's say, angry or bitter thoughts, or who can harm us in any way. Everything I've heard about the process of death, and everything I've heard about the process of dying, and I've been doing this for a lot of years, and, you know, I've spoken to probably thousands of people in the spirit world who have gone through this process, and I've never, ever once, ever heard anything other than how beautiful this process is, how comforting it is, and how incredibly enlightening this process is. Another thing we need to remember is, and especially for those of you who are sick, people who are in pain, people who are, you know, sort of going through physical traumas, once our etheric body leaves our physical body, we leave also behind us all those aches and pains. So that, imagine 1 minute you're racked with pain and the next minute it's gone. And the freedom and the freeing of just that simple act of leaving the physical body behind is amazing. We do take with us our emotional traumas. We do take with us our emotional questions. We take with us, you know, the emotional damage that we may have suffered, because, you know, there is a process after the initial dying process, and I'll talk about that another time. But there are opportunities for us to be helped, to be guided. There are so many things that we can do to understand why we went through the emotional traumas that we have gone through in our lives. And often we are shown through those emotional traumas, we are shown by those in the spirit world, those who are wiser than us, those who are, let's say, the carers, the sentinels. Those are people who can help us to understand and hopefully to learn why we had to go through all this awful stuff emotionally that we went through. But the good news here is that physically we leave, you know, we leave our physical body behind. So what has ever happened with our physical body, whether we've been riddled with cancer, whether we've been traumatized by an accident, whether we suffered disability or paralysis, whatever we suffered on a physical level, that's immediately, as soon as the etheric body, the spirit body, leaves the physical body, all of that goes away. Our angels come, they surround us, they lift us. This is what I've been told. This is how it's been described to me so many times. They lift us. They lift us up and they carry us. And yes, maybe there is a tunnel. Maybe it is dark for a little while, but the presence of our angels negates any fear that we may have. The presence of our angels is warming and comforting and just gives us so much joy. And then we are carried, and as we are carried through this tunnel, corridor, whatever it is, this space that separates us, as we're carried through that, we go through the light. Bright, bright, brilliant, incredible light. And as we go through the light and as we pass through the light, then we do become enlightened. Isn't that amazing? We become enlightened to the process. Even those of us who don't believe in, life after death, we have so many people that I've spoken to over the years who have said, I didn't know about this, I didn't believe in this, but oh, wait a minute, here I am. So it happens to all of us. We're all going to experience it at one point or another. But I think what I'm trying to convey to you here is there is no need for any of us to fear death. The journey that takes us from this earth plane into the spirit world is a beautiful journey. We're protected, we're cared for, we're carried, we're lifted, we go through the light, we're enlightened, and then we see our loved ones, our families who have gone before us, our friends who have gone before us, all of those who want to welcome us with open hearts and joy. And so all I can tell you from my experience, which is vast, and I have gone through that journey myself. I have actually gone through from this earth plane to the other side and gone through the tunnel, which you go so fast you don't even know it's a tunnel. It makes no sense to call it a tunnel because it's just a space that you go through. And I can tell you from my own experience, and here I am. I mean, my silver thread, my cord was not broken because I wasn't dying. I was just experiencing what people experience when they take that final journey, for final leaving this earth plane. It's amazing. So amazing that you're not even thinking what's happening. You're so amazed by the whole process. You are so enlightened by the whole process. And you are so comforted by your angels that the idea of death doesn't even enter your mind, because this is a new life and new beginnings, and you're still conscious and you're still aware and you're still very much alive and with your loved ones, which is just the most amazing thing. So for all of you who wonder about death and wonder about the process, for all of you who are terrified of death, for all of you who are thinking, what's it going to be like? I've hopefully given you a little glimpse of that. And it's not that if I could say to you, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not in a hurry for it. And I'm sure that's how you all feel too. So please, don't fear death. Just enjoy the process when it happens to you. And I always tell my patients as they're on their way, and we know that they're on their way, if you look for the light, and we always hear the light at the end of the tunnel, if you look for the light, your journey from here to there will perhaps be a little speedier.